Friday, Pacer Nation. What is going on? And welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm your host, Alex Golden, and I'm joined today by Michael J. Facci. Facci, how's it going?
Pretty good. Life is good. No real complaints. But I do think it's been a little bit of an interesting day. You know, this is trade rumor season. It's right around us. And I think there hasn't been like a big splash yet. I think it's been a little bit quiet. You know, we hear some names, but doesn't seem like there's a lot of smoke. But we have a guy on our team that there's going to be smoke. There's going to be questions. And we did see some reporting. Don't know how much truth there is to it, but do you want to hear a report? You want to share the report that came out today?
Yeah, so Jake Fischer, who's part of the Steinline Substack over there with Mark Stein, said that the Pacers are listening to offers on Benn Mathurin and mentioned that the Pelicans are a team that has interest, and also shared that the Pacers have interest in Yves Missi. So people are kind of connecting the dots there that, is there a trade potentially in the works for an Yves Missi and a Benn Mathurin? And if that is the starting point, I'm hanging up the phone if I'm the Pacers. That is absolutely ridiculous. If anybody thinks that Benn Mathurin is only worth Yves Missi, I don't even care if you think you're going to get less value for Mathurin because he is this restricted free agent. But I will just quickly say, Facci, we've had people in our YouTube comments saying, I'm tired of coming on and watching this show every single time you guys talk about Mathurin trades. And it's not that we just don't like Mathurin. I think that's the wrong narrative that people are taking because we've had conversations about him. I think we're just looking at this from a reality standpoint, and it does feel like there is a realistic chance that Mathurin is dealt at the deadline, and probably is the most realistic of the names on the Pacers because of the whole entire situation coming up in the summer. So it's not that we're trying to kick Mathurin out of the Pacers organization. It's that it just seems like there could be a reason why his name is circling and resurfacing in all these trade rumors because there's a lot of questions.
There is. If TJ McConnell was in trade rumors, we'd be talking about TJ McConnell, in trade scenarios, but that's not the case. And there aren't teams knocking on the door for Isaiah Jackson or Jarris Walker or anything like that. Benn Mathurin is the player that when we talked about another episode ago about Jonathan Kuminga demanding a trade, and there's got to be a demand. There is a demand for a Benn Mathurin. This is a guy who lit it up in the NBA Finals. This is a guy who's averaging about 18 points per game, having a career high scoring year. He's had many, incredible moments, in the league, and feels like a player that could be an all-star one day. So teams should and do have interest in him. Is a Yves Missi type of deal enough? No, it's not. You look at New Orleans, and they have a lot of promising players. They really do. I don't know in specifics of how big you want to make a deal, but like when there are guys like a Trey Murphy or a Herb Jones on that team, you should have interest. I think that there's some other players that maybe haven't hit their full potential that are also, promising on that team that could, make this deal just a bit bigger. But I think New Orleans is the type of team that could probably give Benn Mathurin the keys. He could be a starter there, and he could probably, I could say thrive, but at the same point, no one's really been happy in New Orleans for quite some time. I think eventually everyone's always kind of forced their way out. But I do believe that there is interest in the Pacers in Missi. I believe that there probably is interest in New Orleans in Benn Mathurin, but not straight up. And honestly, salary-wise, wouldn't even work. Mathurin's making about $9 million.
Three times.
3 times. So there's got to be, could there be a Jordan Hawkins added in there that's $4.7 million that makes that deal closer to 8? I know, look, what are we going to do with Jordan Hawkins? We've already had other guys.
We need more players. We need less players. This team's already crowded.
I know, but you'd have to get crafty in terms of the way that you want to add in more salary or add in a third team. New Orleans is already a team that gave up their first round pick. So they're not in great position to trade another first. They do have a swap with Milwaukee for 2027. They do own their picks moving forward, but still, I don't know. And honestly, that Milwaukee 2027 pick, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to definitely attach picks to it with salary to make it even worth it because I think Yves Missi is like a neutral asset. I don't think he's a negative or a positive. I just think he's kind of a,
Could be something. Who knows? Yeah.
And you were probably on vacation, but when the Pacers played the Pelicans, like Kalen Cooper tweeted out, like the Yves Missi fans not getting a great showing tonight, and you kind of feel it. He had 3 blocks, but like he was not that impactful. And he's I don't know, he just reminds me of like a young Clint Capella that's still like super raw and just desperately needs an opportunity to grow. But like you're talking about growing here. You're not talking about being ready to come in and be a starter right away. So the only deal that kind of makes sense to me, Facci, and I just threw it together on the trade machine, haven't really thought too much about it.
Yeah.
It's Benedict Mathurin and Isaiah Jackson for Herb Jones and Yves Missi.
I
That
don't
could
think
make a little more sense.
Yeah, I don't think they do that.
Why?
We've heard before that they value Herb Jones at, like, I think it was, like, 2 first-round picks and another
Yeah.
player. They're not
I,
getting any picks in this scenario.
well, it is interesting because Mathurin is a guy that you could look at as a first round pick. Isaiah
Absolutely.
Jackson is a former first round pick. Not saying it's the same
That's
level.
one way to put it. Yeah.
But Herb Jones, there was also reporting in Jake Fischer's article that if he were to land somewhere, he thinks that the Pistons could be the team to land him. And
Oh,
I would
man.
assume that is a Jaden Ivey type of package because they also
Yeah.
mentioned that they could listen to offers on Jaden Ivey. So I think if you're looking in that boat of like, connecting dots, Mathurin's definitely had a better career so far than Jaden Ivey, which
Oh, yeah.
would be a way better package, in my opinion. But you are still giving up 2 decent players probably in your top 10 if you're the Pelicans.
Oh, yeah. I think Herb Jones definitely has the value. Love the contract. I mean, he's making just $13.9 million this year. He signed for, 4 or 5 years. So I think there's a lot to like. And obviously, I think he would fit right in with Indiana. I really do. I think it would be awesome if you can. And I think for New Orleans, they got to part with somebody. You gotta part with somebody. They have a lot of players at, like, the 2 and the 3 spot, like, that, it's a lot of mouths to try and feed. Obviously, if you're bringing to Benedict Mathurin, there's still a lot of other guys at 2, 3, 4 that seem interchangeable that need the ball and all of this, and New Orleans, I mean, look at it. You're paying Zion about $40 million. Jordan Poole, we know, was not there for the long run, but he's making about 32 million. DeJounte Murray is probably never, I don't know if he's ever going to be what they hoped, or he's kind of bouncing around the league due to injuries. He's making 31 million. Trey Murphy's making 25. Herb Jones is at 14. I mean, you'd have to pay Mathurin. I mean, is New Orleans in position to be paying 5 guys like $25 million or more? That
Yeah.
feels like a lot for a really bad team. But
I think they'll figure it out. I think they're trying to kind of rebuild a little bit down
they
there.
have to.
I mean, this is Joe Dumars, and this is a guy that just made a terrible trade, in my opinion.
Terrible. 2 of them gave the Pacers back their pick. I mean,
That's a fair
Joe
point.
Dumars came in there guns blazing making mistakes.
Well, and he might keep doing that. You know what I mean?
I might. Yeah.
So what's really interesting is this Herb Jones contract is so fascinating to me. I was looking at it while you were talking. He's making 13.9 this year, Facci. He makes 14.89 the following year. He got the veteran extension that doesn't even kick in till 27-28.
Ooh, that's
So
nice.
I think that's right. Yeah, 27-28. He'll make 20.8 million, then 22.5, and then at 31 he'll be making $24 million with a player option. So I'm just saying, like, for the next 2 years, right there at that mid-level exception is great, and then he jumps up to $20 million at age 29. If he's not a part of your core moving forward, at least for 2 years, a little bit of a title run here with Siakam, that's a very nice tradable asset right there at
It is.
$20 million that they've desperately needed somebody in that range
Yep.
to make deals with. So I'm not saying that they would do it. I'm just saying it's intriguing to me. And that to me would be the type of package if you're going to trade Mathurin to the Pelicans and not include Trey Murphy, the third back, because they're talking how many 3 or 4 firsts for him, something crazy like that. So
It's crazy. I know. I think they do want like 3 firsts in this, and it's just like good player, but that's a lot to give up. I hope we can get away from the times of needing to trade 4 firsts and a pick swap for like Desmond Bain. Like those type of moves are like the Rudy Gobert trades where it cost you like 5 first round picks and Walker Kessler. Like these are some huge deals that not everybody could really pay for. I mean, look at Minnesota right now. Yeah, good team, but like they still haven't won a championship after that trade. Like you look at Orlando, like it's a big deal, and obviously they got years to go, but Orlando isn't the team to beat in the East after making that type of trade. So I think for New Orleans, I think Benedict Mathurin is a player that I could like I said, I could see them having a lot of interest in, but I think this deal would probably have to involve another team because maybe there's a scenario where they're able to send out Jordan Poole or maybe even I don't know if they're ready to trade Zion or just like a bigger contract in there that could go to another team and something could come back to Indiana because I feel like for Yves Missi, it's like we could like the idea of him, but you're not instantly slotting him in to say that's our starting center right there. It feels like, hey, it's a good center, but good enough to give up a potential all-star one day. I don't think it's enough.
Yeah, I think a third-team deal is actually pretty interesting, and, I love a good three-team deal.
You
I'm always
do.
trying to figure out how it could make sense and who goes where and whatnot, but if you get the Pistons involved, like, I just brought them up, is there anybody on the Pistons that makes sense for the Pacers? I'm trying to think, I don't think so. I don't really want Jaden Ivey. I think the Pacers really have to consider I know a consolidation trade is not what people wanna hear, but a consolidation trade might be in the works for the Pacers soon. A 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1, something like that, just because you're gonna be paying a lot of guys, and it's like, who are you gonna play? I mean, if you're already bringing in a first-round draft pick that's gonna make close to, what, $10 million next year
Yeah.
on the books, so that factors in a lot to what the Pacers can do with their money.
I think
So,
it's even more. When Keith Smith was on here, he was saying it's getting closer to almost like the mid-level where like it might be like 12 million. But you look at I know one guy in the Pistons who's not signed, having a great year. Jalen Duren. I'm not
that ain't
sure.
happening.
I
They're
know,
not
I know,
trading him now.
I know, I know. And
Isaiah Stewart is a name that I think makes a lot of sense for how the Pacers play and what he
yeah,
would bring to the table. He's too much of a head case, in my
he
opinion, with
is.
all
He
of the
is.
flagrant fouls, but I like the way he plays. I like that
I
about him a
do.
little bit.
I
I
do.
just I don't see them trading him at all, unless you're sending Yves Missi to Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Isaiah Stewart beef stew could be had. I don't think he's by no means like an untouchable or anything of the sort, but I think like Detroit's in a good spot that if they're going to make a deal for to get significantly better, they got to give up something. And I do think that Detroit has the pieces to really be able to pull off a big trade.
Yeah,
Honestly, like you
they
got
do.
Tobias Harris's expiring contract, $26.6 million. You got Jaden Ivey, so you got a young player over there. Picks. I don't think they really need him moving forward, and they have a ton of young guys between Sar Thompson and Jalen Duren. I don't know if Ronald Holland's ever gonna live up to what he was expected to be. I'm not the biggest fan of his game, but, I do think that, obviously you're led by an all-star in Cade Cunningham. Yeah, so they own their picks moving forward. I think Detroit's a team that could make some noise, but I'm with you in this. If you're gonna be trading Benn Mathurin, it better be for more than Yves Missi. I would like to open up that to either more teams or a three-team deal in hopes of getting Indiana back something. I think they're in a time where, first-round picks don't hurt, but I feel like you don't really need them when you are hoping for a top 3 pick in this upcoming draft.
Yeah, and this is nothing against Jake Fischer, but I do feel like a lot of times the stuff he leaks out, never really comes to truth,
I
and
don't think it has. I
they're
don't think
always
it
like
has.
a week or two late. Like we kind of just heard this from Scotto a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
that the Pacers have interest in Yves Missi, that Mather could be on the deal. So it's like nothing against Fisher. I'm just putting it out there since it was newly reported today. I don't know. I just kind of feel like some of the stuff he says, like I'm sure it's somewhat true and it's
Yeah.
gotten back to him through agencies and things like that. But uh, how much of it is like new news that he's bringing to the
That's what I was
table?
gonna say. How much it's easy to kinda recycle some things and go on and be like, "I'm hearing that the Pacers are interested in Yves Missi." It's like, yeah, because people are putting it out there. Like Scotto, like you said, Scotto came on our show and told us that 3 weeks ago. So
Maybe
it's
longer than
easy.
that.
Yeah. So it's like you said earlier, it is easy to connect the dots. Well, Pacers are gonna trade for Yves Missi. Okay, who's gotta be going out? What about the only guy who's heading towards free agency? It's easy to try and say that so I just feel like it's like, yeah, of course his name's gonna be more, out there than like an Obi Toppin who hasn't played or, Isaiah Jackson where there's not that type of interest. And so I think that who's to say that Indiana can't potentially pull off a deal with Yves Missi involving Jarris Walker and something
Yeah.
like
That's what we talked about on our Center of Attention
we
episode, right?
did
Like,
because it feels more realistic.
yeah, that feels more of like a neutral trade. I don't really know if it helps the Pelicans as much,
Probably not. They
but
got a lot of guys at that spot, but
right. I mean, Mathurin's more of like, and like honestly, Benedict just fitting in New Orleans, like the name is just perfect, right?
it is. You can
For
see it.
for New Orleans, right? Like him and Trey Murphy the third, and Zion and Derek Queen, like just trying to build a young core, and Jeremiah Fears is their point guard, right? So like you can kind of see like, okay, they're trying to go after these level of players, and it does feel very like Detroit Pistons-esque when Joe Dumars was there. And he probably saw Benedict Mathurin punk his Pacers quite a bit. So wouldn't surprise me. But just quickly with what you were saying with Keith Smith, Cooper Flagg is making $13.8 million this year as the number one overall pick. So you're right there around that mid-level, 14.5 the next year. And by the time he's up for his final club option, you're looking at $19 million in that fourth year. So Pacers really do have to factor that in to their team building plans if they're going to continue to be a team that avoids paying the tax.
And that's the thing is, like, I know ideally, sure, you don't wanna see anybody go, but, like, for a team that has not paid the tax in over 20 years, like, Benedict Mathurin ain't gonna just take a pay cut just to stay, like, right? He's earned, whatever he's gonna get. So that could be, like we've said, floated around probably in that $25 million range, I would imagine, give or take. So if you factor that in, then Indiana is not gonna then pay their rookie and then be all in on this team. Like, I just think that's, like, a hard decision has to be made. Has to be made. And you look up and down this roster, and I think that there's certain guys, for better or worse, feel like they're safe in the situation. Doesn't make sense to trade a core piece. You got a guy like TJ McConnell that, sure, like, could you, if you did get off his contract, it would help financially, but McConnell means a lot to this team. And then you look at other guys like Aaron Nesmith, who just got re-upped, and Obi Toppin, whose trade value is not there. And this, like Benedict Mathurin feels like the odd man out who's due a payday when, if it came down to paying Mathurin $25 million or paying your top three pick $13 million, who you're going to have team control over for the next few years, like that financially does make a lot more sense, especially if it's potentially at the same exact position.
Well, and just think if you combine their salaries together, if they're both on the roster next year, that's almost $40 million.
How is that going to work? Like, it's just
well, and here's the pushback. People will say, "Oh, you can't give up on a young player," and I hear that. I do hear that. And I will also say, like, you've got a really team-friendly deal with Nembhard. You got a team-friendly deal with Aaron Nesmith before his extension kicks in. Maybe you overpaid for Isaiah Jackson. Maybe you overpaid for Obi Toppin a little bit. You're eating that now, but it's just nobody expected the Pacers to be in position to get this number one overall pick.
Yeah.
And also, if they get too cute with it, now they get into that first apron. Now they're into the second apron at some point. Like, you don't want to become a team that gets so deep into the apron that you cannot make moves. And so I just think the Pacers are usually smart about getting ahead of things. And this is like, the contract for Herb Jones makes a lot of sense, because if it's half of what Mathurin might make next year, plus the pick you're bringing in, now you got two players for what Mathurin might cost you in free agency. And people say, why do you keep saying $25 million is like what you think he's going to get? It's just because a lot of times when guys like his age become available, you'll see teams, if they're interested, overpay for him. I think some people that are talking about restricted free agency, Foch, they're so stuck on what happened this last season when teams didn't have cap space. Teams have cap space this year.
It's going to be different. This isn't going to be like Isaac Okoro, who's like got his thumb up like he's trying to hitchhike a ride on the outside the cold. Like, no one was offering up any offers or anything. Teams will have money, and there won't be enough talent out there to just be like, people are going to be, oh, Benedict Mathurin's available. Like, you got Washington, who's literally doing nothing. You got Brooklyn, who's doing nothing. Like, those teams are going to have their eyes on Benedict Mathurin. Then you look at what happened last year, the Pacers with the Bucks. There could be a sleeper team out there that all of a sudden could dump a player at the trade deadline and be in the market for a player like a Benedict Mathurin. So I think it's going to be, the Pacers are going to have some stiff competition. They got about 2 weeks to lock in their final answer on what they're going to do. And I would imagine, just like we've talked about before, if it's going to be a sign and trade, it's not what you think it's going to be salary wise. Like, it's a risk for Indiana.
Yeah, it's half.
It is.
It's half of what you sign the guy to, what you can get back in a trade. So it's not like, oh, I can sign Mathurin to a $30 million deal and go trade that to go get a superstar. No, they're penalizing you for doing that. They're saying you can use $15 million of that, which is still a nice chunk, but it's also like asking teams to pay a lot. So I just think it's interesting. And bringing up the Washington Wizards, I'm curious your thoughts, because they make this Trae Young trade, right? We know Mathurin's been linked to the Wizards before as someone that has had interest in him. Do you think that their interest in Mathurin is higher now or lower now after trading for Trae Young? Because can you imagine a defensive backcourt of Ben Mathurin and Trae Young together?
Yeah, I mean, that's not great. But you look at them, it's like, look, Chris Middleton's expiring. You get him off the that, and then look at this. It's going to be Trae Young with $49 million expiring, and then Alex Sarr making about $12 million. Like the drop off after that is it's a bunch of really young players where you could instantly, unfortunately, see Mathurin being slotted in there at $25 million, and Washington doesn't even blink.
Well,
Like
let me
it,
ask you this real quick with Washington. What is Trae Young's contract currently right now?
so he's got 2 years left on his deal, so it's $49 million expiring after this year. So next
So
year
he
is
has a player
after.
option for next season for
Yes,
49
he
million.
will be picking that up. Yeah.
Yeah, unless they get him on a new cheaper deal, which might be the case. But if they don't, then you might just ride it out 1 year with Mathurin and Trae together. But if they
Yeah.
also get a top pick, like now this is interesting. Could you envision a backcourt of Mathurin and Darren Peterson together? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like the vision I would be having if I were the Wizards, or even honestly, just getting Mathurin on that deal and then figuring out what to do with him later because you have
You
the
can
money.
totally figure that out afterwards.
Yeah,
It's
I
so many
think
young
it's so
players.
fascinating because there's more teams out there, and another team to keep an eye on. I think the Clippers are are a dark horse to go out and get Mathurin because they are old and they're going
They
to have
are
to
old.
rebrand.
I know. They will. I mean, you look at that roster could easily just honestly be flipped over in just a small bit. And like this comparison's been talked around before, but like with Mathurin, there is like James Harden-esque vibes of like a younger Harden, great getting the free throw line, like at times a certified killer offensively. You look at this team and like you got Kawhi Leonard, paid for this year and next year. But other than that, it's the same thing with James Harden. Like this team will be completely gone in 2 seasons,
Mhm.
like after next season. And Benedict Mathurin could then find himself being potentially the face of the Clippers, which is a pretty good spot to be in. In LA and having the keys and all of that stuff. So I think for the Clippers, like their expiration date is coming, and the fact that they're gonna not have their first round pick this year is a pretty scary thing. In 2027, it's another swap with OKC. Where are they going to get young talent from? So it's going to have to come from making a trade, and Zubac seems to be that type of trade chip. So I think at some point he might have to be the guy that they give up because no one is interested in anyone who's 38 to 40 years old, which uh, you know, the Clippers have quite a few of those old guys.
Well, and just to kind of touch on them real quickly, like this is where a trade could make sense at the deadline, so they can get
Yep.
Mathurin's bird rights and have the opportunity to match any offer sheet, and still use some of their cap space to go out and sign some of these players with the money they have that are younger to kind of try to build their core versus just snagging Mathurin off the free agent market. So I think it's just going to
Yep.
be interesting. And you brought it up. I mean, at the very beginning of this show, you're like, we haven't really heard a lot of trades. It's almost trade deadline time. We got like 2 weeks until the trade deadline, but we haven't heard many trades. Well, I think Brian Windhorst was onto something. Everybody's holding on
I
to
think
Giannis. Giannis is controlling everything, and
I do think that's probably
it's
accurate. Yeah.
it is imploding right now in Milwaukee. I mean, it is bad. And I've seen so many different takes. I've seen different players coming out on podcasts saying like the locker room probably is just so fed up with him because he keeps kind of making snarky comments about their talent. And at this point, like, just make up your mind, dude. Do you want to be here or not? He doesn't want to be the bad guy. I understand that, but at some point, someone has to be the bad guy,
Yep.
and it's getting ugly. And the Thunder absolutely just schemed Giannis out of the game the other night, and the rivalry game between the Thunder and the Bucks, a big rivalry there. So I just think that it's one of those things where Giannis's trade potential is keeping everything on lock. And then come trade deadline Thursday, we're gonna see some fire. I think that's when things are gonna really start coming out.
I think we are, and I do think that makes a lot of sense because, like, who wouldn't want to be interested in a Giannis deal? Like, there's gonna be a lot of teams that, you know, that makes a lot of sense for him. We've heard obviously the Knicks could be interested, and then there's always a ton of other teams like a Toronto or anyone that could be interested. A lot of good teams should have interest, so I could see that holding things up, but I also just feel like they're not ready to come to a divorce in the deadline. That to me feels more like an off-season
Mhm.
type of move. I feel like Giannis is the type of guy that wants to give it one last shot or give it a shot until it's over and like there's still half the season to go. So I think that could be more of like a, off-season type of move, but we're going to learn more. I think there's probably going to be a lot more smoke over the next week or so, but the Bucks are 18 and 25. They're
Yeah.
sitting in the 11th spot in the East. That is awful when you have one of the very best players in the league and you're sitting in 11th. That typically is a sign that, yeah, this probably isn't going to last much longer because, like, the demand to win for great players is just too high. And Giannis can't just be riding out, his prime years while healthy in this spot.
Doc Rivers should have stayed in the TV booth. It would have been the best thing for his career. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it paved the way for JJ Redick to get on TV and get a coaching job with the Lakers, and it's now paved the way for Richard Jefferson and Tim Legler to be on that number one crew. So don't be surprised if Doc Rivers is back in that TV booth next season. I mean, I can't imagine him wanting to coach this Bucks team without Giannis on it. It just
No.
feels like a weird pairing there. So we'll see what happens. But Facci, we were going to talk about some other stuff today. Didn't actually get a chance to get to it because we went so deep into this conversation here, which I think is okay. We can save what we were going to discuss for another episode next week. But anything else you want to talk about as we kind of close things out here? Because I've got something that's a little non-basketball related I wanted to get your opinion
What
on.
do you got?
You
What
know,
do you got?
I hear every once in a while Bill Simmons and Sal, his cousin Sal, do their parent corner, and I thought it'd be fun maybe if me and you every once in a while did a dad's corner, just to kind of
Yeah.
share a funny story or something that's on our minds, just kind of like a soapbox. And the reason I'm bringing that up is I had this moment with my friends talking about it. But does your daughter Maddie? Did she ever watch Mickey Mouse Clubhouse?
Oh, yeah. Yep. That was a show that we watched last week. So,
Okay,
or
yeah. So Fletcher loves Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and it just drives me nuts because the way that they have these animals all paired together, it makes some sense. Like you've got Donald and Daisy Duck, you've got Mickey and Minnie Mouse, but then all of a sudden you've got big old Goofy with Clarabelle as his love interest on the show, and she's supposed to be a cow. I don't understand how a dog and a cow make sense together as a love interest. And also, in addition to that, Pluto is a dog. He
yep.
cannot speak. He can only
That
bark.
is a good point that I honestly never thought about. It's like,
Goofy is a dog. He can
yeah.
speak. Now,
It's
what's really funny is they did this whole entire thing where they were trying to find these cookies for this episode, the mystery cookie, whatever. Well, they finally get the recipe, make these cookies, whatnot, and they find the secret recipe. Well, they make special dog cookies for Pluto, but Goofy doesn't have to eat them. Like, this does not
Found a
make any sense.
loophole.
This is confusing. And Big Pete, who is kind of the rival, the bad guy on the show
Yep.
that they
Mhm.
still love, he's actually a cat. And I never knew
That I
that.
never knew. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
they
learning
called
a
him
lot.
Pete the cat in this episode with the cookies. And I'm thinking, he's a cat? I looked him up. He's the oldest character on the show because he was created for Alice in Wonderland as a bear. I'm like, how do we go from
They didn't
him?
even get the facts right. Yeah, what, do you think
I
we're
thought
gonna
he was a
forget this?
dog the whole time.
You don't think we got Google? Like, I mean, come on. Like, this is crazy. But yeah, I did not realize that, and I was watching this literally the last few days. So interesting stuff. But enjoy those shows while you can. My daughter like is in a stage now where she's just watching YouTube videos of kids playing with toys like baby dolls and stuff, and it's honestly scary. Like some of the girls that are in there, they treat these dolls like they are real, and I feel like I'm like, this is not good. This is not good. So we watch a lot of bad YouTube shows over here. That's why some of these games start early. I'm like, man, it is hard to wrestle the TV away from my daughter. She is in a TV stage. 2.5 years old. They call it the terrible twos for a reason. I just
Yeah.
went through I'll tell a little story real quick. Going through customs, or custom whatever security at the airport. the simple process of a tantrum come at any point at this age. Taking her out of the stroller, my daughter threw the biggest tantrum you could ever imagine through security to the point where now I'm trying to hold her. It looks like I'm trying to kidnap her in the airport. This went on. Everyone was staring at us. Yeah, everyone's giving me the looks like we're going through, my wife and I, like the worst time, and people are looking like we're probably just the worst parents. But it's just every parent that has young kids will go through it. A tantrum would come at any single moment. The only thing I had to say was, at least she got it out of her way, and it won't happen on the plane because that's probably the only thing I think of that's worse.
Yeah,
So
that would have been worse. Now, were you getting red? Were you getting stressed?
I was definitely getting stressed. My wife was super stressed.
I can
But you
already
know
see you
what?
too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and then it was like one of those. Oh god, it was just bad. It was. We made it out alive. That's all I can say. We had not traveled for about a single year because the last time my daughter threw a tantrum on a plane, threw up all over me. Wife
Ooh.
wouldn't let me off a plane. Yeah, I was like, I need to change. She's like, you can't get up right now. She's freaking out. I'm like, milk all over me. Look, these are parent stories. This is dad's corner. All right. It is what it is. And if you got a kid, you understand. If you don't and you want one day, this is what you got to look forward to.
It's the good with the bad. It's great, but there's also some moments where you're just like, "This is very stressful." And,
Yep.
mine was more of a, "What is this TV show doing?" It's just so confusing to me. But, and I just watched one before I came in here is why I was thinking about this because, Donald Duck is, like, flying a plane and, like, trying to lead these ducks to the pond and the beach, and I'm like, "Why are these ducks not in the plane? Why doesn't he just fly with them? Why does he have to fly a plane?" It's just like they, like, mix a human with an animal to make it feel realistic, and it's a good show that Fletcher loves it, and he loves the dance at the end, but, yeah, it is what it is, man. It is, just funny stuff. But anyway, as we're signing off here, Facci, if you're hoping the Pacers can get a little revenge this weekend against the Oklahoma City Thunder and maybe, kind of erase that bad memory we had the last time we were there, then hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.